Welcome this evening to the Forum for Candidates for Ham Lake Mayor and City Council. I'm Wes Volkanent. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters. I am also a resident of Andover, so I don't have any say in what happens here in Ham Lake this evening. This forum is being sponsored by the Anoka Blaine Coon Rapids Area League of Women Voters and the Ham Lake Area and East Bethel Chambers of Commerce. The League of Women Voters works to promote the active and informed participation of citizens in the voting process by conducting candidate forums such as this, and by promoting voter registration drives for all eligible voters. The League does not endorse, support, or oppose any political party or candidate, but we do study issues of local, state, and national importance. The League is open to membership for both women and men of ages 16 and over, and we invite you to join us. You can visit our website at lwvabcmn.org for more information. This evening, we're going to start first with the Ham Lake mayoral candidates, Michael Van Kirk and Christine Dahlman. And just quickly with the ground rules here, the candidates will begin with 1-minute opening statements. Then we will proceed to audience questions, and each of the candidates will have up to 1 minute to respond. And at the end of that period of time, we will allow for 1-minute closing statements by both candidates. And we'll start this evening with Michael Van Kirk.
Michael, it sounds
Would you rather go by
prestigious. Yeah, Mike's fine.
Mike's good.
Well, I want to thank the Chambers and the League for graciously hosting this Meet the Candidate, and I don't have a lot of time, so I'll get right to the point. Ham Lake is in excellent financial shape. Our current general levy fund for 2019 is roughly $4.5 million. To put that in perspective, it is comparable to our levy back in 2010 and roughly $250,000 than our levy was back in 2009. My first 2 years in office, we reduced the levy by nearly $300,000, while most cities were raising taxes to offset the budget shortfalls. Keep in mind that our revolving street fund has kept Ham Lakers from receiving large assessments for new roads that is already included in your already low taxes. Our tax capacity rate for 2019 has been reduced again to less than 25%. That rate is lower than when I took office 8 years ago. Furthermore, our credit ratings have been upgraded to just below prime, and we are well above the state's recommended amount in capital reserves. Development is booming in Ham Lake, and we don't anticipate slowdowns in the near future. Any chance of Met Council sewer in Ham Lake died when I swore in 8 years ago, and any language thereunto has been removed from our comprehensive plan. Well, I only got 15 seconds, so. I didn't do it alone. It's a result of fiscal responsibility that starts with the council and trickles down through the departments and the employees themselves. If we do have some work to do. We've had many changes in personnel, and in the next couple of years, we're expected to hire a new city administrator and fire chief, just to name a few. I got to stop.
All right.
8 years, I got to cram into 1 minute. Huh?
You almost got there.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And the reason why I actually signed up to run for council and pulled my name for council when I realized that Mayor Van Kirk was running once again unopposed. I'm glad that he mentioned the revolving street fund, because that was what I brought to the city of Ham Lake when I was on the council from 2000 to 2004. And I see that taxpayers' money once again is being wasted. And I'm not okay with that by any means. And one example is, why are we paying higher garbage service for a contract city than I did when I lived in East Bethel? My husband is a lifetime Ham Laker. His family has been here over 100 years. He's a descendant of the Magnusons. Johansson was his name until he came to the United States and they changed it. And I just believe in our community and keeping it rural. Somebody asked me, what do you see the future of Ham Lake? Well, you know what? We can literally be Central Park in New York City. We can keep our rural field and let everybody build around us. That's why I'm running, because we need change.
All right. So now we'll move on to the audience questions, and the first one will go to Christine Dahlman. What is the most important function a mayor should provide?
Leadership. Leadership and treating all residents with respect. Every business and every resident deserves to be treated with the exact same respect and be held to our ordinances.
The number one goal, as far as I'm concerned as mayor, is I'm I'm the representative of the taxpayers. Sometimes you get pushback from government, and I've always told everybody that'll ever listen to me say it that we act as a board of directors, and the taxpayers are our shareholders, and I represent them as best as I can in the most fiscally conservative way.
All right. We'll start with Mike for the next question. Kind of dovetails from what your answer was. What are your goals for your term if you are elected, or in your case, reelected?
Well, the number one goal is probably going to be changes and transitions in personnel. I believe that overall the city's, not to sound overconfident, but is kind of on an autopilot way as far as day-to-day operations. But we're looking at, in the near future, bringing a new city administrator, a new fire chief, and other personnel, and we've made transitions already. And I want to see through it. I wasn't that interested in a third term, but I want to see through it that we do go this as seamless as possible and make sure it's a smooth transition. I think our taxpayers deserve that.
And Christine Dahlman.
My number one goal is to save the residents money, to save money on animal control, to save money on their garbage services, and to just be fiscally responsible. There's other issues in the cities that need to be addressed, and they're just not being addressed at this time.
All right, Christine, you'll get this question first this time. What have you done, or what would you plan to do for Ham Lake citizens who have disabilities?
Well, that's interesting because my husband is actually considered disabled. And so the number one thing I see, access to buildings and access to even in stores from where they can get out of their wheelchairs and get to ramps and get, all of our buildings should be handicapped accessible. I think that's, pretty much it.
Okay.
Make it easy for them.
All right. Mike and Kirk.
Well, I believe most of that was taken care of by the federal law for Disabilities Act. I can't remember the name of the act. I haven't had a lot of push or call for anything in that department, and of course we do whatever the guidelines are from the state, county, and federal government.
All right, the next one, we'll go back to Mike first. Do you want city water and sewer, so city water or sewer, it's a slash there. What's your opinion of the Met Council and its involvement with the city?
Well, of course, I ran on opposition to city sewer and water to maintain our rural character, and there was a lot of politics involved in that, which I don't have time to go through, but that's why I ran and was elected. And, well, I'm sorry, the second part of the question?
Met Council.
Oh.
Involvement with the city.
Well, Met Council, they're not like a mean, angry ogre. If you ask them to come to your city and help you, they will. But if you want to take help or money from the Met Council, then you march in lockstep with their idea of how your city should look, albeit you may have different ideas in the city planning. And we're not interested in their help. We've never asked them to come to help, and we have, as far as I speak pretty much for our council, we're not interested in the change that would come with any of their funding whatsoever. And that was pretty much, as I did in my opening statement, I ran on it, I killed it, it's dead, it's not coming back.
We actually agree. No, I don't agree with city and sewer and water. Just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come. It ends up being a cost to the residents that is more than what they expected or thought they would pay. And as far as Met Council goes, they have way too much authority in the cities that they get into, and they're not elected, they're appointed. And so, no, I am not a Met Council fan. I see them come into cities and they ruin them, and they would ruin our rural field.
Can I rebut?
No.
No, this one didn't have a rebut piece to it. So I'm going to move into Christine. Christine, you get this next one. I have three that are kind of along the same line, so I'm just sort of pulling it together. How do you propose to address business retention and expansion in Ham Lake? And what do you think is the mayor's role in that development of small businesses?
That's interesting because I've been thinking a lot about it. I don't know a lot about bringing businesses into Ham Lake other than asking. I email Trader Joe's all the time saying we could sure use something like you out here. We kind of have this attitude to kind of let development develop in our city. It doesn't seem, we have an economic development authority, they're on the agenda, but I've never seen anything on it. And to be honest with you, I don't know how you get businesses to come in. And I don't think it's wise to give everybody a tax break to come into your city, because what's the purpose of having a new business if they're not going to pay the taxes for years? So I don't know. You know, it's something I would have to learn about, but I am not opposed to being taught.
And Mike Becker.
We get a lot of talk about business development in Ham Lake. Now, let's just keep in mind that we came through the worst economic situation since the Great Depression. So at the time when I took office, we were just hoping that businesses could just stay in Ham Lake, but they were folding up. But one of the things that gets skipped on this topic every time it's ever brought up is the dozens and dozens of conditional use permits that we approve in Ham Lake. Just because it's not built on Highway 65 doesn't mean businesses aren't coming to 65. Don't even kid yourself, they're coming. Now with the expansion and with the economy that's booming the way it is, we are poised for Highway 65 development. But it's not the government's role to go pick and choose what business is going to come. I believe that when Blaine gets filled up and the actuaries for these companies decide that it's time to move that way, it will, styles of business and whatnot. And I do agree with Chris. I don't believe that TIFs and other incentives are a way to bring businesses in.
All right, Mike Van Kirk, you get this next one first. Does Ham Lake have too many, too little, or just the right amount of city parks?
Well, it probably had just the right amount, but our expansion is starting to happen. Again, development wasn't happening for several years. I never signed a plat for my first 3 or 4 years as mayor in Ham Lake. And then the plats that I was signing were ones that for developments that had started and went bankrupt, and they finally finished those up. First, they had to sell all the lots off on the existing ones. So, and now the developments or the plats that were coming in were small. They were small. We're just starting to get to larger plats and larger developments that we can actually sit down and say, hey, there's room for a full parking. Anytime we can get one in, I'd be more than happy to work with that. We have plenty of budget in our park and tree budget. And one more thing on the road that I got a lot of talk about was open space parks, like dog walking parks and nature parks. And one of the biggest requests we get is for an archery course, and I'm an advocate for that in Ham Lake.
Everybody should have a neighborhood park. It keeps kids out of trouble if they have a place to go and play. What I think is important is to keep the parks that we have in good condition, keep our playground equipment up to date, just take care of what we have, and like Mike said, as new developments come in, we require them to have parks. But let's not let the builder off the hook by saying, well, we'll finish that later. Let's make them finish it now.
So the next one, folks, I've done 4 city forums like this over this season, and this is the one that surprises me the most because both Anoka and East Bethel earlier tonight had the same issue, and it came up. What do you think about a grocery store in Ham Lake? And Christine, I think you get this one, right?
We had one, and people quit shopping there. That's a problem. That Soderquist store was in business for over 80 years. If everybody in Ham Lake would have spent $50 a month there, they would have been able to stay in business. I am not opposed to a grocery store in Ham Lake, but I will not let a Walmart or a big box store come into Ham Lake. We stopped it the first time, we'd stop it again.
Mike Baker.
Well, it was a shame that our grocery store had to close, but let's just be brutally honest here. That was due to the super Walmart that moved in on 117th. Pretty much did it. My family patronized that store for forever. I love the meat department and I like the deli. There's been talk, we've heard from a certain, I'm not going to drop any names, we've heard from a certain grocery store that wants to come to town. Again, if you're in the grocery store business, where do you want to put your grocery store? In a rural county road on Highway 65 where they're taking all the lights? No, they're going to fill up. I think it will come eventually when the market bears it. I would love to have one, don't get me wrong, I just don't, I think that's up to the business and the businesses themselves, whether they're gonna come to Ham Lake. Of course, we will welcome them with open arms.
Mike, this one will go to you next. The Anoka County Sheriff's Department provides police services for Ham Lake. Would you continue this contract, or would you explore a Ham Lake Police Department?
I can't believe you're asking me that. 8 years ago, we looked, when I first became mayor, we looked at the feasibility of a police department in Ham Lake, and we negotiated for 4 months. Now, at the same time, we got a new sheriff. There was some consternation with the prior sheriff and the contracts in some of the contract cities. But my hat's off to the new sheriff. He came to the table. He gave us concessions. He didn't give us increases for 2 or 3 years and tiny increases after that. He's provided us fantastic service, and at this time and point, I'm not interested in looking at a police department, but I'm not afraid to if I ever have to in the future.
Christine Dahlman.
Many, many years ago, Ham Lake actually had its own police department. I don't know if people know that. I do know Gene Bolter was on it, which still cracks me up. You know, we have a problem in Ham Lake. We have a lot of break-ins. We ourselves had been broke into. They actually got our 49 Harley Davidson out of our garage. To be honest with you, the sheriff's department pretty much looked around and said, yep, you were robbed. That to me is a problem. I actually called them back and said, can you please take the can of spray paint that they used to spray the windows and at least act like you care? So I don't know. You know, I hear stories of houses being robbed at 10 a.m. Some guy came home from work early and he found his wife's snow tire sitting outside the driveway. Clearly they were coming back. I don't know if it's more police coverage that we need or if we need more residents to start watching out for each other. But I'm not opposed to looking at anything that could save the city money. If we can get better service at a cheaper price, I'm not opposed to looking at our own police department.
Okay, looking at our clock, we're going to call this the last audience question, and then of course you each get the 1 minute for your closing statements. Timer, why don't we give them each a couple of extra seconds on this, just because I'm going to try and combine a couple questions together here. So I'm combining a question that reads, what do you want to change about Ham Lake? And the other is, what would you do to make Ham Lake a better place to live? And because that's kind of similar, but a little different, why don't we throw a few extra seconds on for you to kind of do this? Christine, you left off, so we'll start with you on this one.
But I don't know what they mean by how do you want to change Ham Lake. I don't want to change Ham Lake. I want Ham Lake to develop in a responsible way. I want us to stay a rural community. What I'd really like to see is more community involvement. Now, I know social media, a lot of people don't like it. I happen to like it. A woman brought up an idea of a band shelter, and I said, wow, that would be really cool. How much would it cost? Do the research. Well, she actually did. And she came back with the price, and this is how much it costs this city to do. And my question is would we use it? Do communities come together? Do neighborhoods come together anymore? It seems like we kind of live in a time where people go home, lock their doors, and shut their windows. And they don't hang out together, and they don't do barbecues together. And I mean, we're trying to in our neighborhood. We're trying, I don't really live in a neighborhood, but we have family functions and we invite all the relatives and all the friends. And, you know, it's about community. And how do we get our community to become a community again and care for each other? A little compassion would go a long way.
Thank you. And Mike Becker.
Well, I wouldn't want to change very much about Ham Lake. I think if you talk to Ham Lakers, most everybody moves to Ham Lake for the same reasons. You don't necessarily, I can talk to a Ham Laker all the way across town. It's like, you're from Ham Lake too? And you just kind of go, mm-hmm. It's because we know we like the rural character. We want elbow room. It's not. What Chris mentioned is kind of true. There's certain neighborhoods that chum up, but as a whole community, Ham Lakers are kind of different that way. They'll just they're fine all by themselves. They don't need to get into, you know, like a more dense populated type of community feel. They're not interested in that. I haven't seen that anyway. What would I do to make it better? Continue to offer as much liberties to Ham Lakers as possible. Their homes are their castles. Their property is theirs. After they're done paying for it, they rent it from the government for the rest of their life. So I try to keep that as low as I can and leave them alone. Leave Ham Lakers alone. But my job would be to make sure that, fiscally, we're out of their hair and that we stay out of their their day-to-day lives and offer more liberties. Ham Lakers are pretty resilient people. They don't need to have their hands held.
So we'll move to closing statements. Again, Mike Van Kirk will lead us off. Christine Dahlman second.
All right, well, I didn't write this one up. I'll just wing it. You guys got kind of a pulse of how I feel about the city. I want to continue to finish what we've started. I want to continue to offer liberty and freedom, and money is freedom, so the less money I take from you, the better. I've advocated and ran and stood and performed on the idea that we'll stay a rural community with 1 acre minimum lot sizes, contrary to my opponent. And I will hopefully not be very, I don't know how to say this without, I don't want to be, I've never been very flamboyant. I don't like to be out there pushing any of my own personal agendas. I just quietly do my job and stay focused on what it is Ham Lake needs and follow through.
Well, I don't know where Mayor Van Kirk heard or got the idea that I want smaller lot sizes. That's not true. I kind of like the 2.5 acres that it was many, many years ago. So I don't know where you heard that rumor from, but that is a lie. You know what? I care about the people and the residents. Mayor's job is to save taxpayers' money, to be fiscally responsible everywhere and any way you can. They're wasting money. They had a $3,000 proposal come in for animal control. It wasn't even looked at. That's not my only issue, although that's been accused my only issue. We have the garbage issue. We are paying more in a contract city than non-contract cities. That's not okay. We should be paying less, way less. And last time when I was on council, I renegotiated the garbage contract and saved it a ton of money. You know, I got the lights changed across town in Constance. I helped with the McKinley School so that the kids didn't have to walk from the trailer park on Highway 65. I believe in being involved and doing something for the residents and treating everybody with respect and not be rude and condescending and interrupt people when they're speaking.
Well, that concludes our mayoral forum. Again, thank you, Mike Van Kirk, Christine Dahlman, and can the audience show your appreciation?